Hi everybody, welcome back to another video and welcome to my channel. Slightly different video today because it's absolutely slinging it down with rain and has been most of the afternoon. So yeah, I've had to retreat to the comfort of my guest house and try something a little bit different, which is what I'm going to do here. So what I'm going to do in this video is talk to you about how I plan for a location, or more specifically, how I plan for a trip away specifically to do photography, and maybe also touch on how I choose the locations that I choose to go to. Now I'm going to base the whole video on taking a trip to the Lake District National Park in the northwest of England, principally because that's actually 7 hours drive from where I live. So when I do trips like that, I tend to plan to be there for a number of days. And I'm not the sort of person that can just, aimlessly wander about and hope that the locations will come to me. I actually do quite a lot of research before I go, looking at the potential and looking at the opportunities, and then going out. But having done that research, then having a reasonable chance of there being some success. Now, when I do this planning, I also consider the weather. And I'll come to the weather in a moment. But one of my key, and I'm sure this is no surprise, but one of my key sources of information is, of course, the internet and social media. So let's start with the ever popular Facebook as a source of information. There are several groups on Facebook that encourage people to share images of the area. I'm just scrolling through the feed very quickly here. They tend to be, people's holiday snaps, but do you know what? That doesn't really matter. It's just giving people an idea, or certainly giving me an idea as to what's there. There's another group, which I think is Welcome to Cumbria in the Lake District, which is a similar idea. So for each of these groups, as the pictures pop up, I'll take a quick look around, especially if it's a picture of a place that I've not seen before, and if the location hasn't been given, and here the author has very kindly shared the location and it's something of interest, then I'll maybe actually put a comment below and ask the author where the image was created. So staying with Facebook for a moment, there are also a number of photographers who live close to or are in the area, and they also post pictures from their outings. So here's one, Mike Prince, who is an excellent photographer and very often will also publish where he took his pictures from. And I think there's another one here, a guy called Mark Littlejohn, who now lives up in Scotland, but very often he will post, this is near Ullswater, he will post images of the Lake District area that he's taken in his past. And again, he regularly shares where the image was taken. Now, I should make the point that I'm not trying to steal their compositions. All I'm after is whether there's actually any potential in the areas that they've actually visited. So let's take another obvious social media choice, and that would be YouTube, where we all are right now. There are a number of photographers who regularly visit the Lake District. Either they live there or it's just one of their popular locations. So here's the obvious one, Thomas Heaton. I've also got James Burns, Henry Turner, Chris Sale, and I'm going to linger on James Burns for a minute. And what James is really good at is having B-roll, just sort of incidental footage. And I'm sure you wouldn't mind me sharing this, but this is typical of James, where he's actually sharing views around the walk that he's doing. And I use this information not only from James's videos, but also from other people's videos with regard to, well, if I was to do that walk, are there potential scenes knocking around? Now, James is also very good for sharing in his commentary about where he parked, how long it took him to do it. And that's all very, very useful information when it comes to potentially planning my own day out there. Now, there's another very, very good source of information, and that is this book here, which is Photographing the Lake District, which is now in its second edition. It is an excellent book. because obviously for the Lake District, it's absolutely spot on. But also a bit like James Burns, there's all sorts of additional information like where to park, coordinates, where the nearest accommodation is, plus also, as you can see here, a healthy selection of photographs to illustrate what can be found. And although this book highlights, if you like, the honeypot locations, very often it'll be the walk to or the walk around the honeypot location that will potentially yield the most potential. So I use this book as a starting point with regard to, right, I'll park there, I'll go here, but I'll also take a look around and see what else is out and about. So all of that research, all of that online and offline research gives me a list of potential walks, if you like, to undertake, safe in the knowledge that each one of them has something to offer in terms of interest and potential. One thing I didn't touch on is that very often, a collection of locations will actually point to the possible base. So at the moment I'm in the very pretty town of Keswick. So all of, or at least most of the locations that I've chosen for this visit, they're all near enough around Keswick because clearly it's convenient, and also there's no point coming somewhere and then every day driving 2 hours each way to go to and from your location. Now, adding to the mix of these online resources are things like Street Map, Google Maps, Google Earth, maybe even Google Street View. And what they are useful for is to investigate things like where to park, actually being able to see, certainly using Street View, actually see the turning for the car park, or where the lay-by is. And all of that, that information gets logged or it gets written down so that if I come here, I can refer to it when I get here. So I've made the decision to go somewhere and I've chosen a base location. Okay, so I've made the decision to go somewhere. My next sort of key thing to take a look at is the weather. So for each day that I have, I'm taking a look at the predicted weather, and I use a couple of apps to do this. The main one actually is an app that I have on my phone called Clear Outside. There is actually a desktop version, which is here. And the key thing here is looking at predicted cloud cover. I'll just get a pencil. So we've got low, medium and high cloud, and then you get a series of percentages going through the day. Also gives you the chance of rain and how much. And generally what I look for is it going to rain? But also I'm looking for, a percentage of high cloud as opposed to these two, because a good percentage of high cloud with not a lot in between normally indicates that I've got a good potential for a sunrise or a sunset. Also the fog percentage can be quite interesting as well. So looking tomorrow, there is a chance that there might actually be some fog and mist around. And if I just scroll up, we've got things like dew point and relative humidity. So, again, there's lots of information within Clear Outside that you can use to choose potential in a location based on what the weather is actually going to do. So for example, if the weather is completely forecast with not a lot of rain, then of course that will change the location that I'll go to. I'll probably head to some woodland as opposed to a location where I'm just trying to choose a different day just to see whether that makes any difference. So what have we got on this particular day? We've got mostly low cloud with not a lot else going on, but you get the point. If I had clearer skies, then I'd maybe go lakeside. If I've not got a huge amount of wind, then I'd probably go lakeside, but look for reflections and something like that. There's also one more local weather source that I use, certainly for the Lake District, which is this one, which is the Lake District weather line. A very, very useful source of information. It's all maintained locally. And, again, you've got quite a lot of information here with regard to what's going to happen at different times of day, the chance of precipitation, etc., etc. And that can be added into what Clear Outside is also predicting. So having done all that research, the next obvious step really is to get out there, put some mud on the boots, and just go and experience the place for real. In my experience, there's no substitute for just taking the time, having done all that research, just to go out and see whether that research has actually resulted in anything. Now, you will be aware that I don't necessarily go out with an image in mind. I just simply go somewhere and look for the potential that appeals to me at that particular time and under those sorts of weather conditions. Now, I know that this approach does differ quite markedly from some other landscape photographers who will only visit a location if they know that there's actually a scene there worth capturing. My approach to all my locations, regardless of what we're doing here, planning to go to the Lake District, is to simply go and react and capture an image that summarizes that reaction. And yeah, do you know what? Sometimes I will do all the research, go out and realize that a certain location or certain place could have more potential in, let's say, a different season, or maybe actually in slightly different weather conditions. For me, that's absolutely fine. All of this stuff gets written down, it all gets noted, and then it gets added to the pot for the next time that I plan to be up here. I would make the point that any weather forecast is just that. It's a forecast. Today, it was incredibly accurate. Today, the morning was going to be fine, and I wouldn't say it was fine, but you know, it was okay. I knew that sort of late lunchtime, the weather was going to turn, and indeed that is precisely what it's done. And it's still doing that around about 2 hours later. But the forecast is just that. It's a forecast, it's a prediction. And in my experience, it's only a guide for the day. And occasionally, certainly somewhere like here, it can be completely wrong, especially if you're going to go up into the mountains and gain some altitude. And if that's the case, then the list comes back out. I normally take the list with me, and then I'll just simply look for somewhere else that would be better suited to the conditions that I found myself in. It's definitely an approach that works for me. And as you've worked out by now, I am not going to go to the expense of traveling somewhere like here, paying out for accommodation without having some kind of idea with regard to where I'm going to go when I get here. Now, that's kind of trying to summarize sort of all the key things that I do. Please do share in the comments below how you go about choosing your own locations and the resources that you would use in order to research them. Again, if you use different weather apps, especially if you found them to be more reliable than other sources of information, please do share them in the comments as well. I'm sure I'm not the only landscape photographer out there that uses other sources of information to research the best opportunities. So hopefully, do you know what, we can all help each other. So that's it for this video. I hope it's been interesting and useful and helpful. Please do continue to like, comment and subscribe on my YouTube channel. As ever, I am incredibly grateful to you all for your support. I doubt very much I'm going to be heading out again today, but I shall certainly be looking for the potential for tomorrow morning, and I shall see you out there, hopefully, on my next video. Until then, take care, stay safe, and bye for now. Cheerio.